Hello there. My name is Norman Maslov, and I'm a videographer. I make vinyl community videos. You know, the ones where someone shows the new record they bought in a used record store, or the record they got from some record label trying to promote their new music? Well, this is a special video along those lines. Something I do just once a year. This is the Wankers in Music, the top 10 Wankers in Music. Now, if you don't like videos, music mixed with politics, please move on. Turn the channel right now. If you don't like to hear the truth and only fake news, please move on and watch something else. There's plenty of channels where you can get that fake news information every day of the week. This is something special. This is something that I do once a year. And lastly, if you don't have a sense of humor, turn it off right now, because I just want you to see my top 10 wankers in music for 2023. Thank you. Hey, it's Mazzy. This is the one that many of you have been waiting for. If you're new to the channel, you may have stumbled across one of my wankers lists in the past. But since it's the end of the year and all through December, I've been doing some serious lists on box sets and new releases and jazz albums and album covers. This is the 2023, the top wankers in the music business, the top 10 wankers in the music business. Now, not all people. Some of these are businesses, corporations. But let me go back in time. Okay. I've been criticized and I've been hailed by those in the United Kingdom. Some say, yeah, I've never heard a Yank say wanker. I can't do the accents, and I don't even know what region that is. That's probably northern, whatever. Doesn't matter. That's not what this is about. But I say wanker frequently. I first went to the United Kingdom, first went to London in 1978. The radio goes on in the car, and my friend who picked me up from Heathrow, and the first song I heard was Wuthering Heights. Next day I went and bought that record, and it was all, I have a love for the United Kingdom, going back to the Beatles from, the British invasion in America. But I kept hearing wanker, and of course I've heard wanker prior to 1978, but I started using wanker. Now, I don't use it all the time. So on the other side of the coin of the English pound, of that, whatever you're using now since you got friggin' out of Brexit, I guess you still used your pound before that anyway. But I've heard British people comment saying, Americans shouldn't use the word wanker. Now let's cut forward a few years, and why people like me, maybe I heard it 6 years earlier, but wanker was first brought to these shores because of this gentleman. Now, he is not included in my 2023 wanker list. This is obviously Phil Collins, 1984. But in 1984, 1985, this song exploded, this album exploded because of one song especially, In the Air Tonight, which was used on the television show Miami Vice, Michael Mann's television show about slick Miami and detectives, and you know the show, I don't have to get into that. That song was used, and in 1985, I believe, Phil Collins was a guest on that TV show. And it is attributed that the first time the term wanker was used on American television was by Phil Collins on Miami Vice. Look it up. So, thank you, Phil Collins. And now we have wanker. Now, what does wanker mean? I'm going to read something here. The term wank and wanker originated in British slang during the late 19th and early 20th century. In modern usage, it is generally a term of contempt, rather a commentary of sexual habits. Wanker has a similar meaning and overtones to American pejoratives like jerk or jerk off. Now, I'm not using wanker as jerking off here. That's not what this is about. Wanker is slang for one who wanks, masturbates, but most often used as a general insult. It is a pejorative term of English origin in the United States. The term is understood, but it's rarely used. But I use it on my channel, and I will continue to use it when it's appropriate. Now, as we go along, I have 10 wankers going from 10 to number 1. So as I've said last year, this is my top 10 wanking, or what you might know as ranking. But, they rhyme, so that's how we're getting there. Now, remember, folks, this is for entertainment purposes only. Every year I get about 5 people saying, the only wanker up there, we don't say it, they don't do an accent. They say, is the wanker wearing the hat in the spiffy suit who's not dressed like all the other Seattle musicians that dress like shit here. All they wear is Pendleton knockoffs. But sometimes you have to dress for success. And in terms of the wanker of the year, someone's going to say, get to it. He gets to it at 4 minutes, 52 seconds in. I don't know what that, anyway, so here we go. It's record companies and logistics and the companies, the one-stops, the distributors that ship out records, okay? I wrote here, shipping and packaging for records from artist sites and labels, the major. Labels and direct orders get shipped last. Now, let's say you have a favorite artist. Let's say it's Tom Petty, and you go to the Tom Petty website because there's a new live box set coming out or a new live thing. Now, sometimes there's an exclusive that you only can get through the artist site, and sometimes whatever artist, you can get it from, say, You Discover or, Warner, Rhino, or any of the labels. Pick, and I'm not going to pick on anyone here. Well, maybe I am occasionally here. But what happens is you think, oh, I ordered it from Tom Petty. I'm a member of the fan club and stuff. I'm going to get that on the release day. Well, fuck, you don't get it on the release day. And they don't even ship it the day before release, okay? Now, here's an example. There's a major label. I'm not going to mention the label. I ordered 4 records, okay? I ordered 4 records directly. I should have waited and bought locally, but they had a 30% off sale. 30% off is a good deal, so I ordered 4. Now, 2 of them were pre-orders. 2 of them were coming out literally that week, okay? Or the week before, or the week after. I digress here. So I actually paid extra for shipping. I could have got all free shipping if I waited 2 months down the line for everything coming together and somebody in the warehouse picking these things and shipping them together. And that's easy for them to do, you'd think, right? I mean, Amazon, knock them, but they usually get it right. Most of the time, not always. I know they're a bigger company, and it's really unfair to compare these things to Amazon. So I paid extra. 3 weeks go down after the release date of the first 2. Nothing, nada. I paid extra. Okay, I finally wrote them. Nothing, nada, 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 nada. Finally, a week ago, I get an email, which this is the good side of it, but I mean, it's bizarre. We're really sorry for the inconvenience. Basically, we're kind of swamped. Well, it's a fucking Christmas season. Of course you're swamped. But that's when you hire extra people, and I know you can hire people now where it's hard. So we're going to refund your money and ship you everything free. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. If I knew that was the case, I would have ordered twice as many records. And I thank them for that. And that's kind of a thank you. But really? I mean, I'm going to get these records, and they finally shipped. I got a notice 2 days ago that they're on the way to me. But, I don't understand why when you order it directly from a site, especially when you're an artist, they can't ship them. And then we heard this year a label, Rhino, which is the label I love. They're doing this audiophile series. And the first thing, they shipped them like basically in someone's Kleenex box or something. And you got these bent up records for a $40 record. That's not right. But I think they've fixed that too. So there's issues with shipping and logistics, and I can't believe these labels can't figure this out or work with these distributors that can figure it out. That is something that that I think it's a wankish thing. So that's number 10. Now, there are sites like the InGroove, Analog Productions, Sam Records in France. I get records from France that are better shipped. Here it looks like 6-year-old laborers packed them up in some of these places. So that's something I think that should be fixed here. So that is number 10. Coming at number 9 on my top 10 wankers of 2023 list are Bob Dylan, T-Bone Burnett, and Christie's Auction House. Now, I like Dylan, I like T-Bone Burnett, but T-Bone Burnett promoted this special doodah one-step direct recording system. It's kind of like those, what do they call it? FTB, GFX, QRD, basically things that don't really exist. There's like this digital artifact, art piece that people pay way too much money for that kind of busted, almost like Bitcoin things. So this is Bob Dylan, Blown in the Wind, 1 out of 1, 2022, but I believe the auction was into 2023. I'm including it here, even if it was a little early. And so this went for, what is it? $2 million, $1.8 million. It went for $1 million. Now that's it. It's the record. You actually get a wooden box. Now, at the presentation, they played it on this, it looks like a Pioneer nice turntable, direct drive turntable with a cheap ass cartridge. Now, I'm not saying when you have a $100 or $200 cartridge, that should be a bad thing. But when you're playing a one-off, $2 million fucking dollar record, played on a decent cartridge and played for the audience, and lift the dust cover up, you're getting all kind of reverberations and stuff. So, I mean, Dylan and T-Bone in this $1 million one-off Bob Dylan thing, that's so friggin' wankish. That's my wankish. So there you go. Okay, number 8 on the top 10 wanker list of 2023. It breaks my heart. The last one broke my heart. This one breaks my heart. The number 8 wanker of 2023 are collectively, individually, well, more the collection and the company, are the Beatles. My favorite band. I have a huge Beatle collection. The friggin' Beatles, wankers, number 8. Now, I'm not going to even get into the remixes of this thing and the I Am the Walrus ending bit. That's not what I'm even talking about. Now, that may be bad enough. Now, I like some of the remixes. I like some of the center vocals that they did with the stereo, with this AI thing. You know, then and now and then, here and then, whatever it's called. And that video was atrocious. I'm sorry. It looks like some 6th grader, in at computer camp made that video. And I'm sorry, New Zealand, but that was the biggest piece of shit that I've seen in a long time. So amateur. Yeah, it tugged at your heart, seeing John and Paul and the young John, the young Paul and the young George and the old. But come on, that was kind of wanky-ish. But the thing is, I want to talk about the Beatles in mono. For years, for 50 years, for 60 years, we always read, we always hear that the Beatles meant for their early records to be the mono. That was the choice. Sgt. Pepper, John said, if you didn't hear it in mono, you didn't hear it. Everyone, George Martin, the monos were the mixes. The monos were the mixes. That was the mantra. For years, for fucking half a century, we've been talking about mono Beatles. So, 2013, 2014, they put out the mono box. Hallelujah. Now, they didn't sell as well. The vinyl resurgence wasn't really alive. And then, of course, they sold out cheap, and now they go for $1,500, $2,000, okay? Revolver Anniversary comes out, remix. They put a mono copy in it. How great was that? They put a mono, all analog copy of it. Now, this is an original mono, full back cover of Rubber Soul. This is an individual of the 2014 release, mono, all analog, Rubber Soul, fantastic. But now they're going back and they're mixing stereo to sound like the fucking mono records, and you can't go in a store and buy the fucking mono records the way the Beatles intended to. You cannot today walk in any record store. You can't order it from Universal, from Apple, from Amazon. You can't buy a mono record unless you find a used copy, unless you pay $100 or $150 for this copy. If you can find one, they're on Discogs. You can buy, for $200 or more, get an original mono. Put the fucking mono Beatle records out. Where are the fucking Beatle records? These are the ones they wanted. Instead of doing all this time and work and making stereo sound like mono with a little extra tambourine or flugelhorn or piccolo trumpet. Beatles and mono. Come on, Beatles. This is wankish. This is your legacy. You're fucking up your legacy. And furthermore, with all these remixes coming out of the entire Beatle catalog, there's going to be apparently all the other albums remixed for consumption, which is fun, which is fine. It's nice as long as you have a choice. But what's happening, and this is where it adds to the Beatles as wankers list and Apple as wankers, pretty soon, and even now, you can't go in and buy an original mix, mono mix of this album. You can't go buy an original mix of Sgt. Pepper. They should have changed the covers for the remixes. You need to be able to immediately identify the remix as something different. It shouldn't be the same Sgt. Pepper. It shouldn't be the same Rubber Soul. It shouldn't be the same Revolver. You need to do something to designate that you're buying a remix. And if you want to buy a remix, fine. Have them both out. But don't hide away and shove away the original art that this amazing band created through the 1960s. Number 7 are fans who throw shit at musicians on stage. What is that about? Hard objects. Now, historically, let's go back to 1963 and 64 when fans in the United Kingdom started throwing jelly babies at the Beatles. Because on some interview they said they loved jelly babies, so they threw jelly babies. They were small. All right, and then remember when, Tom Jones, women started throwing their underwear. But now these friggin' fans are throwing cell phones and drinks and hard objects. Look at this. Harry Styles. Now, that's probably flowers, so maybe that's not so bad. But they friggin' hit him in the face. Cardi B was slammed in the face. Who else? Drake. People are throwing shit. Fans are assholes. They have their phones. They don't even pay attention to music. They're just, all they want to do is to get a video clip to tell everyone they went to see the fucking Taylor Swift show. And they're throwing shit at the artist. That is fucked up. So, sorry, that's number 7. Fans throwing shit at audience. Now, the punk scene was a whole different thing. Okay, we won't even go there. That was, you're supposed to throw shit at punk shows. So that's a whole different thing. Thank you. Number 6 is a repeat wanker. He's been on every wanker list, almost, that I've done, and that is Morrissey. I Am Not a Dog on a Chain. I believe this is his last record. What a crappy cover that was. Now, he makes it for so many reasons. First of all, if you ever tried to go to a Morrissey concert lately, you got a 50-50 chance that he won't come out and play. It'll be too hot. It'll be too cold. It'll be too wet. It'll be too dry. I smell hot dogs cooking. I smell burgers cooking. He had a record coming out. He signed with Capitol Records, and there was a record coming out, I guess, through Capitol Universal in the last year. They got his advance from the label, and forget it. He's not doing it. It's not coming out. He cancels shit. He's such, basically, you look in Wikipedia, you Google wanker, and this shows up. Aside from the Gallagher brothers from Oasis, this picture shows up. So I could go on and on about wankers. Morrissey ended his LA show after a half hour without explanation, though some attendees reported the singer was complaining it was cold. And then Morrissey canceled his scheduled sold-out gig in Nottingham last night. That is a direct quote, and there's plenty of things like that. He parted ways with Capitol. I think he has put out, early on he was on Sire and Warner Brothers, all those years, Rough Trade, I guess, after Smith's, and those were great records, and it was consistent. Now he's a wanker upon a wanker upon a wanker. Morrissey, but he's only number 6. So thanks, Morrissey. Coming in at number 5, Jan Wenner. Jan Wenner started Rolling Stone, co-founded Rolling Stone in 1968 with the great columnist from the San Francisco Chronicle, jazz writer, jazz provocateur, and pop music, psychedelic music promoter in San Francisco, Ralph J. Gleason. They started Rolling Stone in San Francisco. It would later move to New York to get Madison Avenue advertising. From then it kind of changed, but it's an iconic magazine. It was great for music. It was great for politics, social. It was really a great magazine for many, many years. Obviously, it's a skeleton of itself, as are most magazines these days. But it's a culture lifestyle magazine now, so I'm not going to even get into that. But in 1971, Wanker number 1, or one of his Wankerisms, he did a really great interview with John Lennon, and it was for Rolling Stone magazine. Part of the agreement was don't publish it in book form. He publishes it in book form under the name Lennon Remembers. Lennon was pissed. I agree. I mean, that's kind of a wankish thing to do. Anyway, he puts this book out, and he has interviews with a series of white musicians. Now, I'm not going to, I get it. When you do a book, you don't have to put your black person and your Asian person and your woman and this and that all on in a book, and you can do whatever you want. And I get that. Even as a liberal, the liberal in me understands that. But how you talk about it now, words do matter. And he was interviewed by the New York Times a couple months ago, and he says the book features interviews with white male rock and rollers. Of black artists, he says, Stevie Wonder, genius, right? I suppose when you use a word as broad as masters, the fault is using the word. Maybe Marvin Gaye, maybe Curtis Mayfield. I mean, they didn't just articulate at that level, he said. It's not that they're inarticulate, although try to have a deep conversation with Grace Slick or Janis Joplin. Please be my guest, Wenner said. Joni Mitchell was not a philosopher of rock and roll. She didn't, in my mind, meet that test, not by her work, not by the other interviews. So basically, he's saying how the black artists and women aren't as articulate as these white artists. Now, if you choose not to interview them, that's one thing, and that's his choice. That's anyone's choice to interview who you want for your book. But that's kind of a wankerish, bullshit way. And of course, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame dumped him. Dylan thinks that he should come back in that. I don't know if that's the case. I don't believe that you should always dump everyone right away without some kind of conversation or trial or something. We get into Woody Allen territory for that, who's been married for the same woman for almost 30 years now. And nothing's changed since he was exonerated way back, except, innuendos and rumors. And, that's a whole other thing as well. And don't get me started on that. But so Jan Wenner has become a wanker in his old age. He's not the renegade he was. Maybe he hasn't been for a long time. I'm sure he hasn't been. It's actually kind of a decent book, though. But there you go. Coming in at number 4, and this is a perennial as well. This is Ticketmaster. The monopoly of Ticketmaster. Upcharges. First of all, the situation that happened with Taylor Swift tickets this year was atrocious. You're going to have a lot of people wanting tickets. You need to figure out your computer system then. That was bullshit. Upcharges. Permanent home charges. You have to pay to use your ink. And now you can't even do that because you have to have the app to do this. And there's an upcharge to use the app to get the handling charge, and they're not even handling anything. And the service charge, and they're not really servicing you. There's fucking too many charges. That's an easy one. I don't even have to say any more about it. Ticketmaster blows, and there's not a lot of other choices, really. So, everyone's in cahoots with the stadiums and with the venues and with the ticket stuff, and that's just pure bullshit. I mean, I hate it. So, that's it for that one. Try That in a Small Town. Coming at number 3 is Jason Aldean. He wrote this song, or he plays this song. I don't even know if he wrote it. Maybe he did, but I don't know. So maybe I should have researched that better. Someone's going to say, Mazzy, you don't know. You didn't even research your material. Well, I don't know. He did a song called Try That in a Small Town. Okay, fair enough. There's a difference between what happens in a small town, what happens in urban life. I get it. But the video cut to this caused such a ruckus because he showed urban situations that happen with the Black Lives Matters, burning out buildings, burning flags, shit that he says doesn't happen in a small town. Except in that small town, you'll be tied to a back of a pickup truck and dragged around till your fucking body falls off, your skin falls off. Shit happens everywhere. That's the bottom line. Stuff happens in a small town. Shit happens in rural communities. Shit happens out in the mountains there in West Virginia, where my mother was born. Shit happens everywhere. Mental health is a big deal. If you're looking at a fight, try that in a small town. That's what he says. And then he goes into a verse about, don't confiscate my gun. Well, I get the Second Amendment. I think it could be altered for 2023. But when you're talking about your children getting killed and people in your churches getting killed, and you care more about your fucking gun than you do about those people, that's bullshit. We're not taking away your handgun. And when someone calls me and says, Mazzy, don't take away my handgun, I have this and I deserve to have an AK-47 or whatever the gun is, bullshit. You don't need to have that. That's not in the Constitution. All these things, we're not taking your guns away. Anytime we've had an assault rifle ban, we didn't come and take all your other guns away, your handguns and your rifles. That has never happened. It won't happen in this country. We're way past that. But that is not happening. So basically, this guy kind of incites things with this video, and especially now we're so decisive already. This is kind of bullshit. Of course, it went to the top of the country charts and was a huge hit. So controversy like this wanker video works most of the time. So I'm putting Jason Aldean, number 3, in the top 10 wankers of 2023. Coming in at number 2 is Roger Waters. Formerly of Pink Floyd, Roger Waters. Now, he says he's not anti-Semitic. He says he doesn't. Obviously, that's a costume, so, but for visual reference, you get what I'm talking about. Use the word dirty kike, which is an offensive, obviously an offensive term for Jewish people. He's compared the music industry to Nazi Germany, Israel and Nazi Germany. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole war that's happening with Israel and Hamas. It's tragic. All around, it's tragic. The only thing I'll say about that is Hamas had how many billions of dollars in 16 years and should have helped the Palestinian people, but instead decided to build tunnels and weapons and attack innocent people in Israel. Now, the leaders of Israel are fucked up right now. So there's blame there, and that's what I'll say about that. There needs to be a two-state solution, and that's, that should happen all the time. Netanyahu is not the person to do this. He should have been on the wanker list, but he's not a musician. He's not in the music business as far as I know. But that's another story for another day. But when you get people like this inciting things and saying these racial epitaphs and things, I think it's really bullshit. And I obviously take offense as a Jew. I take offense as a human. And that leads us to the number 1 wanker of 2023. And again, another repeat contestant. And just the picture, all I would have to do is hold this picture up, because that's the number 1. This is the number 1 wanker of 2023. Ye. Kanye. He's posted swastikas on Twitter. He's posted, mix that with the Star of David. He's called out anti-Jewish things. He basically said, fuck Adidas, you stole my design. Now that's a whole other business thing that I'm just not privy to. He's going to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. And to make even, insult to injury, he's lost a lot of his empire because of that. He's gotten dropped by Adidas. He's gotten dropped by other brands. He just, in the last week, as I was pulling this list together, apologized to the Jewish people in Hebrew. Now, first of all, most American Jews don't speak Hebrew. So now it's not just American Jews. Obviously, Jews around the world, there are many Jews that do speak Hebrew. But he did it in Hebrew in such a disingenuous way. This guy is the biggest wanker. I mean, years back, all the stuff he did going on stage, taking away Grammy trophies against other people. The biggest fucking wanker of this year and probably the last several years is Kanye West, Diamond Man, Diamond Jubilee Man right here. I don't even want to show his fucking face because he's the biggest wanker on here. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching and supporting me, because it is about the music first, and these things are fun detours occasionally to fit in. So thank you. I wish you all the best in 2024. Mazzy loves you.